MarzGurl.
I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 120 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover Season 3, Episode 4 of City Hunter, titled Dangerous Detective Game, A Python for the Lady, Part 1.
A two-parter and a short season.
I mean, they can have one. Everybody gets one.
It is just the one, right?
I believe so.
I hope it is. I don't remember. I didn't go back and look it up again.
We've said this before. This isn't our favorite season, but now that I'm looking at it this time, and we'll discuss this even more later, I'm forgetting and now remembering subsequently, this is actually a funnier season than I gave it credit for.
Yeah, it's okay, because it's really not trying really hard to have particularly high stakes. This is like filler season.
It really is, but it's more the little things. It's the little in-between stuff that we're finding when we're slowing things down and actually looking at these really, comical moments.
The in-betweeners had a really good job this season.
Oh yeah, and especially this episode. And what we're gonna talk about this one, again, it's a very cookie-cutter episode. You could have thrown this episode into another previous season, and it wouldn't feel out of place. It's just very much by the books. We're helping out this lady. But guess what? You know how every week we complain that they forgot to name one of the bad guys completely, or we don't find out the bad guy's name until most of the way through the episode? This time they did it with our client for the week, and she doesn't even give her own name, and they forgot to say what her full name is. We have to find out about it in parts this week.
I mean, this does happen sometimes, that suddenly somebody says the main character client's name somewhere in the middle of the episode. But yeah, I do think that this one is pretty unique in that nobody actually addresses her directly by her name, and she herself never says it.
Like, we had to be detectives ourselves and kind of piece together, oh, this is what your name is. Like other episodes, they'll tell us straight up, hey, here's our client, so-and-so. Or the bad guy will say, we're here to take out so-and-so. That didn't happen this time.
Did you want me to check the video one more time, right where Cowrie, shows off the picture?
Yeah, sure. Because I felt like, as we were going through making the notes, I was losing my mind that they forgot to say her name. But no, we'll go ahead and check it real quick.
Because specifically the part that we're wondering about is the part where Cowrie, it's right at the beginning of the episode, so I'm not giving a whole lot away. The part where Cowrie shows Rio the photo of the client that they're trying to take this particular week, right?
Right, okay, so, no, go back a little more.
No, that is
okay, right.
It's just this photo, right? That is it. That's the whole thing. Cowrie just dangles this photo in front of Rio's face, and she just says, it's the client, and that's it? There's no name here, right?
So,
we're not missing it?
We're gonna double back over this in a second, but I feel like here in this episode, they didn't decide on what the name was, so they just made her say the client.
Well,
they had to figure it out later.
At this point in time, I actually genuinely can't tell whether Sunrise forgets to name their characters for the episode every week, or if by now it's happened so many times that it is the running gag that oh, none of these people actually matter, so if we have to name them sometime later in the episode, we'll wait for the point where it's important. I don't really know.
No, see, the way it's coming across, if it was a running joke, they'd make a bigger deal out of it, but we're having to discover this every week.
So you really think for 3-4 years, Sunrise genuinely just forgets to name characters?
Yes, I fully
time.
believe that. After having done this podcast for about that long, I fully believe that.
Okay.
But no, let's go ahead and get into this episode where we're going to discuss how Sunrise could miss such things, but you know what? That's what we're dealing with. Okay, so here we go. So here at the beginning of the episode, we see this woman walking around at night, and she seems to be minding her own business when out of nowhere, this white sports car tries to run her off the road. And she's very obviously spooked by this.
And she's getting a bunch of messages that are telling her, get off the case. And she's getting weird phone calls in her office, her room, her apartment, wherever this is that she has.
Drop the investigation. So you get the feeling this person must be either law enforcement or a detective.
She's looking into something.
Yes.
Now we finally are at the scene that we've really been contemplating over. Do we know this woman's name? And the answer is no.
No, we do not.
But Kaori is saying, hey, we've got a new case. There's somebody who wants us to protect them or whatever. In fact, the job is that she wants to learn how to fire a gun. Ryo, you need to teach this woman how to fire a gun. And initially, Ryo's like, I'm not just gonna teach some rando how to fire a gun.
And Kaori knows what Ryo's type is, holds out a picture. Thankfully, this woman submitted a picture, or Kaori took a Polaroid or something. She has a photo of the client to dangle in front of Ryo and be like, what do you think now? And of course, Ryo's like, oh, she a cutie, so when we meeting up?
Well, for about 2 seconds, he's like, no, a pretty young lady like this shouldn't have to fire a gun. But actually, she's hot, so...
Yeah, exactly. So we know where Ryo's priorities are. Now, the thing that's a little different this time is as Ryo's heading out the door to go and pick up this case, Kaori decides to give him a little device.
It's a pager.
It's a pager.
It's a beeper, right? It says pocket bell on it, okay? And generically, that's what pagers in Japan were called, right? Although I did find that pocket bell was a brand of pagers specifically in the Philippines, and I'm just kind of assuming that Japan just adopted pocket bell the way that we call all cotton swabs Q-tips, right?
Or we call all soda Coke.
Right. I mean, some people do.
It's a very southern thing.
Anyway, so that's how Japan commonly referred to pagers and beepers or whatever. So Kaori has given him a pocket bell, and it even says pocket bell on it, right? So...
And I don't want to get too far ahead on this. The art here is consistent with what we've seen here for City Hunter 3. The thing that I'm noting here is in several shots in this episode in particular, Kaori's got crazy thigh game.
Yeah, they put her in a good skirt this
yeah,
week.
The animators were hot for Kaori this week. There were leg men working on this episode.
Yeah.
So out at a local park, we see that our client, this woman from the beginning of the episode, is out there waiting for City Hunter to show up. And again, remember, at this point, we don't know her name.
It's just the lady.
The client. Now, she's been out there, she says, because she's talking to herself, for about an hour, and City Hunter is nowhere to be found. However, there is this one pervert guy running around, hitting on about 5 or 6 different women, and running himself into a light pole when he gets rejected.
Well, not even just running himself into a light pole, he gets kicked to sleep into a light pole all
and then
the time.
Tries again
and
after
then,
each one.
And then tries to pick up somebody else, yeah. So, after this has happened like 5 times now, and also, client lady is very dejected because the City Hunter person that she was trying to hire just seemingly never showed up. Now Ryo is like, oh, where are you going, pretty lady? Would you like to date me?
Because if you haven't figured it out, Ryo's been there for an hour, hitting on other women.
He very likely knew exactly.
Oh, no, absolutely. This is all by design. He knows exactly what he's doing.
So initially, the lady is like, no. In fact, so loud no that it is a screaming no. She is very upset about this until Ryo actually in this moment gets a page from Kaori on the pocket bell.
The only thing that's weird about it is for a lot of us, pagers were outside of our technological era.
My parents had pagers. My
uncle had a pager, and he only ever used it every so often, and God rest his soul, he didn't use it for a lot of good things.
Oh, no, my parents used it for, like, my dad, it was a work-related pager, and for my mom, it was legitimately like, if you need me, beep me. And, like, I had to do it sometimes. I had to call my mom's beeper occasionally to be like, oh, no, I got some sort of a problem, and she's not near a phone right now. I'm gonna need her to call the house and get back to me. And we set up code numbers. All right, Kaylin, put in this specific code if you need for me to call you back because of this specific reason.
And so we can see here on the pager what is on there. From what we can read, it says 7371 XYZ.
I wondered whether or not the numbers were also similarly like a code, you know, that with a specific meaning, but I admittedly am not sure what that would be if it is. So.
I'm only aware of so many of them in Japanese because they do that. Like 39 is very obviously
Sankyu.
So thank you. There's a couple of other ones and they're just not coming to my brain right here off.
And they're not top. They don't always equate to English. They sometimes, like, if you're just using the first syllable of the number,
which is usually how that works.
Then you're basically spelling out other Japanese words, and I'm not certain. I'm not certain enough about these, but if somebody were to tell me later, oh no, you were right, the word was blah 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 blah, then I would totally believe you. Right? Like, I would believe that. But definitely we understand the XYZ part, okay? So
yes.
we know, oh, okay, this is a Kaori thing.
I have to go find a payphone now.
I mean, shockingly, Ryo's pretty whipped. He goes straight for
in this
a payphone.
episode,
yeah.
He is. And actually, he speaks very highly of Kaori in this episode, which we'll get more into in a second. So he has to go find this payphone nearby, one of those green payphones that you see in a lot of older anime. And we see here on the payphone, you noticed this, it says NNTT on the payphone.
Right, because the actual phone company is NTT. They just added an extra N there just so that it could be legally distinct.
So we have to legally distinct out NNTT from NTT, but we can actually use Pocket Bell, which is a real company.
Except it wasn't a company that seemed to be active in Japan.
Okay, Kaylin, technicalities, whatever.
Technicalities. But no, before he even went into the booth, Client Lady noticed as he was checking his beeper, oh, this guy's got a gun. Is he Yakuza? Oh no, and I just screamed at him. I'm gonna have to make up for this.
Once Ryo gets out of the phone booth, Client Lady is very, very apologetic, like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, would you like me to go get you a drink right now? Can we do that? Which takes Ryo aback a little bit, like, I don't know how we got here all of a sudden from you being terrified of me, but I mean, yeah, sure, why not? And I guess a lot of time passed because it was bright daylight here in the park they're at. Now it's just nighttime in Shinjuku.
I mean, maybe a lot of time has passed, but you remember, it gets dark so fast and super early in Japan.
No, that's true, yeah. So maybe that's
like,
what it was.
It is dark nighttime at like 5 p.m.
Okay, so maybe that's what all it was. It was the difference between 4 and 5.
It could have
Let's
been,
just call it
I'm
that.
not sure.
But they're at a bar and, Ryo's got a drink in front of him and, he's nursing it a little bit. This woman, though, she has, unfortunately, concocted a plan to try and get Ryo's gun away from him because she very desperately wants a gun for self-protection. So her grand plan here is to outdrink this guy that she assumes is Yakuza.
Which already is like a stupid idea, even if that was true.
Like,
right?
ma'am, do you understand, just in general, how hard it is to outdrink a salary man? A regular-ass dude in Japan who, by nature of the culture, has to consume like 5-6 beers every night when they go out with coworkers. And you want to outdrink a Yakuza?
And he's not even Yakuza, so she's just like way off base entirely.
That's the first part of the stupid plan. The second part of the stupid plan is, apparently, she's a friggin' lightweight.
She literally only takes 2 drinks, and at first...
2 sips, not even full cups.
Yeah, so when I say drink, I don't mean like an entire, like, drink. I mean, like, gulp. That's it. That's the whole thing. And at first I thought, like, she was faking it because, like, oh, she needs for Ryo to be off his game and to also get drunk or something. And then it took me, like, a minute to realize, oh no, she's serious.
Well,
like,
see, the way I processed it in my head is, there was this old Kevin James comedy special he did where he was talking about being in line at the bank and he saw somebody coming up to him to talk to him. And so he's like, oh man, I don't want this guy to talk to me. All right, maybe if I make a face like I have to go to the bathroom, he won't talk to me. So he makes this like disgruntled face. And so the guy doesn't talk to him, and he's still making the faces like, okay, the guy doesn't want to talk to me, but now I actually have to go to the bathroom. Like, that's how that came across to me. Like, she faked it until she made it her reality. She is now drunk.
Yeah, but I don't think she faked this in any capacity. I think she just went straight to being drunk.
If anything, it's just like other episodes where we've had other female clients who, for some reason, get tipsy after 1 or 2 small sips. This isn't the first one.
No, once again, it feels like this season is literally just rehashing the best of City Hunter.
Greatest
honestly.
hits.
Yeah, it's just greatest hits. But the problem is that 2 actual yaks come through the door, and she's like, oh, I can really tell those are the real ones, so what I'm gonna do is piss them off and try and get them to attack Ryo, and that'll give me easy access to his gun, which I don't understand how she comes to that conclusion, but also she is drunk, so she's making very stupid decisions now.
And then I got a sidebar here. Is this the first time you've said yaks on the show? Because we've always said Yakuza. I don't think you've explained your use of yaks.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's pretty pretty obvious what I'm talking about when I say yaks. I didn't think that was a huge jump.
But where you came up with it.
So the reason why I started doing that was because when I was in school in Japan, and my school was in Shinjuku as well, right? It was not a long walk to get to Kabukicho. It really was not.
You said it was like 5-10 minutes, right?
At best, yeah. And they specifically said, never go to Kabukicho. Also, don't even say Yakuza. Just don't even say the word Yakuza. And I'm like, well, that sounds like bullshit. But we were like, okay, if we need to talk about the Yakuza anywhere around, like our classmates or our teachers or anywhere near the vicinity of the school, we're just gonna say yaks. You're not gonna, generally speaking, Japanese people aren't gonna know what we mean when we say it in a very plainly American accent, yaks. They're not gonna know what that is.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, we just threw around yaks, yaks, yaks all the time.
Get your yaks in.
Yeah.
Which, again, if you're going to be in Shinjuku, in and around the Kabukicho area, just keep your wits about you from firsthand experience. Just be careful.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even the Yakuza you have to worry about.
You just gotta be careful.
Yeah, some crazy shit that goes down there. In fact, there's not even a whole hell of a lot of Yakuza left in Kabukicho. Supposedly they're still around, but just in much fewer numbers.
But in any case, the client here is talking mad shit to these two Yakuza, like pouring drinks over one of their heads. Like, oh, what are you gonna do? You can't be in here, you're Yakuza, you're bad people. Oh, I'm hiding behind my dude over here. What you gonna do about it? And the guy who's had the drink poured over his head is getting really upset, like, hey, what are you doing, woman? What do you think we're gonna do to you? And the second guy is one of the smartest characters I've ever seen in this show.
Yeah.
Because he recognizes Ryo. And he's telling him, Aniki, dude, right there, that's... And they start saying...
And he actually, the second dude who got the beer poured over his head, it took him a second, but he recognized real fast. They both start saying, City! And they don't finish.
They just book it.
And this lady's like, what? Now they've taken off? Well, this didn't solve any of my problems. Nothing is clicking in her head that she's just got all of this information wrong. But also, again, she's still quite drunk. So maybe she's just drunk stupid. But also, I think she's also just stupid.
Well, because the thing about it is, I've heard this said before, that when you drink, it's not that you become a different person necessarily. It's the person you already are, just without the inhibition.
Well, yeah, like, I think she wouldn't have made some of the dumb decisions if she were in her right mind. But when you're not in your right mind, you start thinking, you know, if I didn't have the limiters in my brain right now, maybe I would do this. And then the drink turns off those limiters.
Yeah. So now that the Yakuza have been run off, Kaori pages Ryo again. Ryo has to go find another payphone to go and answer her.
He's whipped. He's actually paying attention.
It's like Kaori's his parole officer, is how this is coming across. Like, you gotta check in every couple of hours to make sure you haven't committed any more crimes.
Yeah.
And so while Ryo is on the phone trying to call back Kaori, client lady has gotten the bright idea, well, everything I've tried so far hasn't worked. I'm tipsy. I'm gonna grab a chair and I'm gonna go pro wrestling on his ass.
I'm just gonna grab a bar stool and I'm just gonna start swinging.
And if he gets knocked out, that's his fault.
But come on, like, she actually manages to get away with his gun, which, let's be real, Ryo, under normal circumstances, would never allow this to happen.
Also,
so we know something is up.
Also, we can't miss this. The hit to the back of the head happens as Kaori is picking up the phone, right? And Kaori's like, oh, about time he checked in. You know, she's waiting after she sent the page for him to call back. As the hit happens and Kaori is picking up the phone, there are some beautifully comedic in-between shots of Kaori here.
Yeah, we've been grabbing some really good in-between animated cells for some of our screenshots for social media. I'm gonna have a hard time picking one this week, if I'm to be honest with you, because these are so, like, just really big, comic, like, big ol' speech bubbles of Ryo screaming through the phone. Kaori's got these enormous bulging eyes because she just was not prepared for this screaming into the phone. She's lost a slipper. She's thrown back onto the floor. Like, this is just really good animation. And she's just like, oh my god, what happened? And I don't know that she gets an answer right away. At least not one that we see. We just mostly see the client, because that's her name as far as we know, running out into a park at night with a gun. So.
And you know she's drunk again because she's like like talking to herself about everything she just did. Like, oh my god, I'm drunk. What have I done? I hurt a man and I took his gun. I'll pay for your medical bill, sir. I'm sorry, but I need this gun. All right, I'm sorry. Let me try and use the gun. And like, okay, one, you're drunk, lady. All right.
You're drunk with a gun.
You're drunk with a gun. Two. No, we do not do this. Like, I've seen some dumb clients before, but if you're drunk and you're trying to hold a firearm, like, okay, where'd the bullets go? Like, no.
Yeah, and that's exactly what she's doing. She's fumbling around with, I think you open it up like this. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. And, like, she drops it on the ground.
Thankfully, there's no bullets in it. Your dumbass might have shot yourself.
But there is a note in
the cylinder.
In the cylinder.
In one of the cylinders of the gun.
Yeah.
And so she takes the note out of this chamber cylinder, opens it up, and thankfully Rio had the forethought to know this was going to happen because, again, he's aware that somebody's trying to obtain gun training. And the note says, hey, if you're really serious about using a gun and actually using real bullets, look to your right and say, woof, please. Signed, City Hunter.
Look to your right and bark like a dog. And, you know, she's drunk, so she's not like, oh, that's a really fucking weird thing to ask me to do. I'm not gonna do that. She actually does it. She's like, oh, look to my right and bark. Bark! Like, she just, I personally would be like, this is fucking weird. I'm gonna just put the gun down and walk away.
But she does it, and Rio, sure enough, he's right there like, yo. So, I did all this, he's explaining to her. I did all this to ascertain whether or not you were really serious about learning to do all this, and I've gotten a pretty good idea of who you are. You pass. I'll go ahead and teach you. Also, come here, you're looking kind of cute. And as he's about to go in for a kiss on this lady, who, mind you, he hasn't been making the best impression with, Cowdy shows up, because I can only assume from the call that she just got of Rio screaming, she just assumed an assault was happening and just ran her ass to wherever he was.
On top of that, she does say, oh, you missed a call-in. So at some point, while off screen, she expected him to respond, and he didn't.
Well, I guess, because that was the call-in when he was trying to call right there, and then he yelled over the phone when he got hit in the back of the head.
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like he made the call.
But she didn't accept that that was a call-in because all he said was, "Aye."
I guess. I think there was another call he was supposed to make and he didn't make it.
I think it's the same call.
Either way, Kaori was suspicious of what was going on. And she has hit him not with a hammer, just with like... In fact, this might be the one episode where she only uses some other item that is not a hammer and never pulls out a hammer.
No, I don't think she did this episode.
No, just a random piece of wood.
Yeah. Well, not a random piece of wood. It's specifically got the engraving, "Drive Away Carnal Desires" on the side.
Congratulations, Discotech. You got this one right. I had to check because it's gotten to a point now, unfortunately, where sometimes when it comes to the things that are engraved on stuff that Kaori throws around, whoever translated those things just decided to pick the closest approximation of what they think an American would understand and not necessarily what it actually says. So I had to check. And okay, great. They did it this time. Good job, guys.
So now everybody has reconvened back to Rio and Cowdy's apartment, and now Client Lady is having to introduce herself, not by name, but by her occupation, that she is in fact a detective.
Hello, nice to meet you. I am Detective.
My dad was a detective. He owned an agency. He dead now. And now I have an agency. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's great. So why do you need a gun? Because I'm looking for a missing dog.
Like, what? Whoa, how did we even get here? Like, that's the thing. Cowdy and Rio are, like, on the floor laughing at the ludicrous nature of this case so far.
Kaori's bent over the couch and beating the couch with her fists because she finds it that funny.
Rio's kicking his feet up in the air like they are dying laughing. And it's only here when she's trying to prove, no, seriously, I'm looking for a dog. And she holds up the flyer that she has made to show this is the dog we're looking for. It is only here that we see the name written on the paper of the name of the detective agency that we at least get her last name.
We still haven't seen her first name.
Which is Kamimura. Okay, so we've got a name, a Miss Kamimura. Great.
So this is a missing dog. It's mostly white with some black spots on it. Like there's a big black circle around its eye. Its two front paws are also black, also the tip of its tail. And its left ear is black.
And its name is Nana.
Well, the only reason why I know its name is Nana is that, like, they didn't even subtitle that. Like, there's so much text on the screen, I have to assume that they had to make some choices for what they would include on the screen. Or else the screen would have just been covered in text.
Right.
But, like, I'm reading, oh, she's drawing these big old arrows and circles around things to show, oh, he's got a black ear and a black tail. His name is Nana. Like, I had to kind of sit here for a second and read what it said on this poster. But they're still, like, laughing at it. And now, Detective is just sitting here crying.
Well, Miss Kamimura.
Fine, Josh, Miss Kamimura. She's just sitting here crying like, guys, why are you laughing at me? I'm serious. Somebody's trying to murder me and you're laughing at me?
and they, like, have to go upstairs to the roof to talk this out. Like, oh, man, like, look what you did, Rio. You made her cry by laughing at her.
Well, you were doing it too.
And she's like, shut up. And so they're like, okay, fine. Like, we said we would. We'll take the case. Fine. She wants to learn how to use a gun. Okay, fine. Cowdy, take her down to the gun range and show her how it's done. Well, first, I better show you how it's done. So Rio goes down and fires off, marksman-like ability like he normally does.
He shoots, like, first 5 bullets in a circle, and then another bullet straight through the middle of that circle. Like, he has just blown the ever-loving fuck out of a fictional guy's chest, right? Just some nobody cut out. His chest is gone. Anyway, so Rio's just kind of showing off at this point. But now he's like, alright, that's how it's done. Kaori, keep teaching her. And you're sitting here wondering, well, Rio knows exactly how good Kaori is with guns. In fact, that is by design. And once again, I cannot remember whether or not the anime
might be
has...
next episode when that gets covered, if I'm not mistaken. I think.
I am not actually certain. Rio is aware, at least in the manga by this point, he is fully aware that by design, Kaori cannot shoot a gun because he deliberately gave her a gun that's fucked up.
Right, exactly.
But Kaori does not know that. But Kaori just thinks, oh no, I have to train this girl in guns? I'm not super good with guns. But Rio's like, oh no, your wild shot is incredible. This will be very useful. Like, it sounds really condescending, and in a way it is. I'm not really sure what he thought was going to happen, because he did know that there was just no way that she was going to be able to teach adequately another person how to fire a weapon, but I feel like it's weird that he didn't expect the results that were to come a little later on.
Here's the weird part about it, and I only speak on this so long. The weirdest thing about this scene right here is that Rio steps away for a second to just kind of say something to himself or to the camera, and then he comes right back. Like, he didn't actually do anything. He came back almost immediately.
Well, he wanted to leave them to their own devices.
Yeah, but normally in another episode, Rio would have gone to go check something or get information from an informant or something like that. Go talk to Sayako. No, he was only gone maybe like 5 minutes. Like, he didn't leave the apartment.
No, probably not. He probably did not leave the building.
So yeah, Cody's having to show woman over here, what'd I say her name was? Kamimura. Okay, so this is how you shoot, here, you try one time. And she's like, alright, here I go. And on her first try, she actually gets it dead center.
Well, she gets blown back, so you're confused, like, well, there's no way she hit. But actually, yeah, she did. She has really good aim, but she doesn't have a whole lot of strength to handle that blowback.
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
No strength, no confidence.
Yeah, that's the only thing she's lacking. So now Kaori's like, oh, that's pretty good. Let me show you how to do it even more better. Like, how do you get better than that? Kaori doesn't need to do shit, but now Kaori is super pressured, super stressed. Like, God, now I gotta show up this person who had beginner's luck. Like, what the fuck? And she just misses entirely on her first shot, because of course she does.
And she keeps stressing out, like, I really gotta make this next shot. And she keeps missing even worse the more she stresses out, to where she's only got like 1 bullet left, and she's like up on the little ledge shelf thing that's keeping you from the rest of the range, and she kind of slips a little bit. Gun goes off. It ricochets like 4 times and then finally hits the target.
Which is kind of an, aha, I meant to do that sort of a moment, which she uses as a teaching moment. And now, Detective is now under the impression that, oh, that's what I need to do. I need to work on shooting so wildly that eventually I ricochet off of something and hit the target. That's the takeaway I need from this.
Like, Coyote's bullshitting so hard right here. Like, yeah, that's my famous 2-stage wild shot. Yeah, that takes a lot of practice to learn. I bet you can't do that, huh? And then as Ryo comes back in, somehow Detective has figured out how to do it within 2 or 3 shots. She has learned how to compensate and has gotten actually really good at ricocheting.
Well, I mean, I think it's taken more than 2 or 3 shots because she's firing pretty wildly and Ryo's like terrified, like, oh my god, now there's 2 of you. And this is what I mean when I say, Ryo, what did you think was gonna happen? This was always going to be what was going to happen because this is how Kaori fires.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know why he's shocked that this is the result. But yes, Detective Lady now is capable of hitting targets via ricochet.
I mean, that's crazy, but okay. And so apparently now that she's revved up on all this adrenaline from firing off guns all day, now she can't go to sleep because she's all wired. So Coyote's like, all right, well, you know, my mom gave me a little bit of whiskey to go to bed when I was a kid. No, I'm kidding. That didn't happen. I'm going to give her a beer to try and calm her nerves. And apparently now Detective is a happy drunk. And she's like, hey, everybody get drunk, it's a party, woo! And so I guess Ryo, Coyote, and Detective all got pissed drunk.
And then they went to sleep. And then the morning showed up, and Kaori was like, oh no, Aiko is gone! Wait,
and we're over here like, who the shit is Aiko? Who is this? Who is that person? I've never heard that name before. Who is Aiko? So we're having to piece together now that we can finally say this at about 30 some odd minutes into this episode. The client's name is Aiko Kamimura. Thank you, show.
I don't know how Kaori knows her name, honestly, and Kaori's the only person who says her name the whole episode.
Like, I'll say that I'll be upfront about this. At my job, I'm terrible with names. There are people that I've talked to. I've been at the job for about 2 years now. There are people that I talk to every day. I do not know their name. I'm not going to ask their name, and at this point, I'm too proud to. And it's like, for some people, I get lucky, and if I stall long enough, I will either remember their name or someone else will say their name and I'll be like, ha, that's what it was. That's how I feel this episode is treating Aiko. Like, they wanted to go the whole episode with being like, all right, literally, like, this is a bet we have amongst ourselves as writers. How far can we go before we absolutely have to mention her name?
That's what I was kind of saying before, like, just leave it so long until we don't have a choice. Somebody needs to say her name.
Yeah, I don't think it's a running joke. This week, I think it was a bet. That's how that comes across to me. Like, somebody's gonna make 1,000 yen on this, easy, if we can manage to go as long as possible without mentioning the client's name. But no, somebody lost the bet. It's Aiko Kamimura. Got it. Okay, great. Also, Ryo has left his pager.
And he's gone too.
They're both gone.
Oh no. So Kaori's very upset about this. Ryo's very happy about this. They're out and about on the town, and Aiko, because that's her name now,
yes,
is like, well, we've got to find the dog, help me find the dog, what are we gonna do to find the dog? And she's giving this description about the dog that's like, well, oftentimes, he's actually not too different from you. He goes around chasing other pretty lady dogs.
But see what I mean here? Like, I put up some of these signs. Here's a regular version of the sign in my hand. Now look here where I put the sign, and somebody has ripped down the sign and like in like crazy killer blood scroll written out, "Stop looking." Like, it's really overdone and kind of dramatic. And Ryo's picking up on this. Like, huh. That seems like a bit much, but okay.
But okay, fine.
Alright, you said pretty dogs?
Let's start with this lead that you've got about pretty dogs. I know one place to go. And he takes her down to a hostess bar, and apparently some hostesses just keep dogs. I don't know, I've never seen this, but I guess this particular hostess is keeping a cute little Pomeranian dog.
And the dog had one line.
And that line was "wan,"
which is Japanese for bark.
It's Japanese for woof.
Yes. And, you know, they don't get any information. Ryo was mainly just down there to hit on her.
Aiko's gotta be like, okay, no, come on, take this seriously. Where are we going to find a pretty dog, not a pretty woman who happens to have a dog?
He's like, all right, let's check a local pet store. And we go to a storefront here where what would you say was?
It's hiragana, but it's clearly waseigo.
Waseigo, yeah.
Like, it's written to be a borrowed English word, right?
And the name of this pet shop is literally Pet Shop Boys, like the band from the 80s.
There's no way that it's not like a direct reference, right?
Yeah, that one's pretty...
There's no way.
If it was any more on the nose with a band name, this would be a JoJo reference.
Yeah. Oh, damn, we missed the other reference while they were getting drunk.
Oh, yeah, like one of the beer cans that's just strewn about on the ground in front of them, just clearly written in English on the side of one of the cans is, Enter the Dragon.
Wasn't that something they did early in the first season? They were just writing movies they liked all over shit? And
yeah.
Wasn't Enter the Dragon one of the things?
Reanimator.
Reanimator was for sure, and so was Chud. I could swear Enter the Dragon was written somewhere at some point in time.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but here...
for sure it's here on a beer can. Wouldn't you drink an alcoholic beverage titled Enter the Dragon?
Well, they do make sure to let people know that if you're drinking excessively, please be sure to drink a lot of water! Thank you, that was my one Bruce Lee joke for the evening. But no, they check the pet shop, and they can't find shit there. Nothing's going on, Ryo just hits on a store clerk, and they've gotten no closer to finding the dog.
Oh no, we have to stop after 2 tries. That's it.
But here at the pet shop, Kaylin, I hear some music playing in this pet shop. You hear something?
Oh yeah!
What's that music? I can't quite...
They're playing City
Hunter's theme song! Go Heaven again! Here in Season 3. It's the song that will never die.
I don't know why they've committed so hard. They must have bought the rights for that song in specific for a long, long time.
Well, they must have. They're like, oh, we bought the rights to the song. We're gonna use it, damn it. We paid money for this.
So they just kind of stop.
They gave up after 2 tries.
At 2 tries. And like, oh, well, it wasn't here, and it wasn't here. Oh, I guess we're never gonna find this damn dog. And Ryo is extremely tired at this point, and he's just like, I gotta sit down. And I'm looking at him like, oh, they've drawn your legs really thin. No wonder you're tired. Like, your legs are just blown out.
Like, you see sometimes they draw his legs really thin, but he's like top heavy.
Yeah, kinda chonky up.
Kind of like this Bruce Timm style art.
Yeah.
Like Justice League Unlimited style.
But this came first.
Aiko,
I have to say her name weird because now we've learned what her name is, and it's just it's weird that we know it now. She has an idea of, I've got a place we can go. Come on, let's go. And Ryo follows her, and it's in the middle of the hotel district, so his immediate thought is like, oh, shit, she's taking us to a love hotel. This is finally happening. Except she doesn't take him to a hotel. She takes him to her detective agency, which for some reason is in just like the complete wrong district to have this kind of business.
Now, we do know about another detective who's there in Kabukicho in another piece of media. Maybe a couple of blocks away from where that is.
Yeah, but look, in Lost Judgment, or just Judgment, in Judgment, he's not in the hotel district.
Yeah, but we've walked that stretch. It's maybe like 2 minutes apart.
But they're not in one another.
Yeah, but it's not that far apart.
But it's not, like, I think you're missing the point of being surrounded by hotels.
Alright.
Yagami's detective agency is not surrounded by love hotels.
But he wouldn't have to go far to get to them.
No, but that's not the point.
Point is, Ryo got the rug pulled out from under him. He's not going to get his freak on. He's just going to go sit in a dingy old office.
I don't know, I think the office looks pretty nice, actually.
Well, you were saying it looks like Akiyama's office from one of the other Yakuza games.
From, like, Yakuza 4?
4, I think.
He shows up in 4 first, right? Yeah, I think that's his office in 4. He's got a nice enough office. I like his office.
Now, the thing is, as they're here in the office, they're going over, well, really, Aiko is going over, yeah, my dad loved this office. You know, he didn't make a lot of money, but we had a lot of good memories here. And Ryo's kind of thinking about, you know, earlier when we pointed out the sign that had been ripped up and it had been written on there, "Stop looking," I noticed there was a guy around the corner who was tailing us, but that guy sucks because I could totally tell he was tailing us. And right now, as we're here in this office, I think I hear that guy on the other side of the door. Who's this?
Oh, there's a guy.
This older gentleman there.
And the guy is Uncle.
It's Aiko's uncle, who is also not named.
His name is Uncle Josh.
Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. His name's Uncle. And Uncle doesn't like Aiko being a detective.
Or that her new assistant right now is Ryo, who he also assumes, well, he sure does look like Yakuza to me. But these guys are very bad at detecting Yakuza based solely on looks.
And he's just up in here like, "I'm mad. I don't like what you're doing, and I want you to stop it."
He also did not like that her dad had been a detective before either, so he's just mad all around, and it's coming across pretty suspicious, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, like we've seen the show before. He's like, "You made a promise, and I'm gonna make sure you keep it. All right, bye." And he leaves in a huff, and Ryo's having to ask, "Okay, so what promise is he talking about?" And Aiko's like, "Oh, nothing major. He just made me promise him that if I couldn't, solve my first case, that I'd give up being a detective. But, it's no biggie. We're gonna get this. We're gonna solve it."
That's an awful weird stipulation considering somebody's trying to get you to quit being a detective right now.
Meanwhile, completely unrelated, outside the window you hear...
Oh!
And they're like, "Oh shit, that came from outside. What was that?"
Oh no, Uncle is on the ground. He's like, "They got me! They got my leg!
They jumped my ass!" And they're like, Who? And he's like, "Yeah, this car. It came at me, and they hit my leg, and they're like, 'Stop looking for the dog, otherwise we're gonna get you too.' And then they drove off."
Look, there was a car, yes, but come on now. None of us saw what the fuck happened. This is fucking weird.
Because this is where the episode's ending right here. There's not a lot to this episode. We see the car kind of pull out from around the corner.
If it had a face, it would be like a weirdo poking its head around the corner. That's how they slide this car into frame.
And it's the same car from the beginning of the episode. So there is somebody there in a white car trying to do harm.
I just don't think that it's like its own anomaly unrelated to the uncle. Okay.
No, the uncle's very sus right now.
At one point in time, I knew what happened because we've seen this entire show before. It has successfully been enough years that I have forgotten exactly how this goes down.
So it's gonna be new to you again.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's where the episode ends. We don't know what exactly is going on. We just know in a grand total of 22 minutes, not a lot has happened.
No, not that much, all things considered, because once again, greatest hits. And we're just kind of doing some of the best things that City Hunter has already done in 2 seasons before this.
Yeah, so as far as this episode goes, I can't remember either what happens in part 2, so I'm going to have to reserve judgment a little bit. All I can say is, as far as clients go, this one was mostly nameless, and also...
For more than half of the episode.
For more than half the episode, yeah. But on top of that, she's one of the dumber clients, quite honestly. The way she was thinking, "Oh, I'm drunk, I can handle a firearm, it's no big deal." Lady, what made you think that would have been fine? You were scared to have a gun when you were sober. What made you think you can handle one when you're drunk?
I mean, when you're drunk, you're not thinking. That's what the answer is.
I know, but even then, it's nah, man. That's a thing that rubs me the wrong way, personally.
I agree. Aren't people who consume alcohol while around open firearms really bad and very stupid people? Isn't that a bad and stupid thing that nobody in real life should ever do?
Well, I mean, it's its own thing. Yeah, so next time we're gonna see how this plays out, if we can figure out whether or not the uncle really is sus, and if Lady actually can bother to use a firearm correctly.
Yeah. Our producer is telling us we need to wrap this up right now.
Yeah, our producer is saying we only got 5 minutes left of juice on this thing. So we're going to wrap it up for you guys, and we'll continue this next week.
So come back next time when we cover the 5th episode of City Hunter 3, Dangerous Detective Game, A Python for the Lady, Part 2.
And if you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on most social media. I'm at JoshKnightFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our our 120th episode of MokkoriPlay, and if you don't come back next episode, Josh is gonna be in even more danger!
Wait, I was in danger last week. Is this the same danger or a different danger?
This is dangerous.
Oh no.